Hello, everyone. This is Molly from the Casually Molly podcast, and I just wanted to introduce you to my new friends at the Natty Cat. This one is for all you cool cats and kittens who can't get enough of wordplay and fur babies. The Natty Cat's natural soy candles feature inventive scent combinations in glass jars with clever kitties on the labels. The scent of furry sweater weather takes holiday candles to a new level with a blend of eucalyptus, mint, and pine, and a slightly disgruntled Persian sporting a red sweater. Because who doesn't want to dress up their cat? The Smoke and Puss features 007's cat counterpart, along with the flavors of orange blossom, cedar, and incense. Hand purred with locally sourced natural soy wax, the Natty Cat's candles, wood wicks, create a cozy fireside crackling sound, perfect for curling up on the couch. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember to stay safe and look at the Natty Cat on Facebook and Instagram.
Have you ever wanted to get your shit together? Scrap it, look through the lens and capture it. But first world problems are getting you down. Disabled, salty, need a laugh to fix that frown. Well, you can do all those things and so much more. Just grab a seat in a chair or the floor. Sit back, relax, recline, while she drops another casual line. You're tuned into Casually Molly with Molly and Bergie.
All right. Welcome back to the Casually Molly podcast. I am your host, Molly Ambergy. Normally, we have a lot of St. Louis entertainment, comedians, but today we are reaching out to my hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio, and we are with Kayla Robison. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Oh my God, of course. Well, I wanted to reach out because Kayla and I were just talking, obviously, during sound and figuring out our mics and everything. And Kayla and I have a lot of mutual friends, one of them being my very own loving sister, who I said I would give a shout out to, Allie Tolbert. So shout out to her.
Hi,
Hi, Allie. And Kayla, I'm so happy to talk to you. I really missed Cincinnati a ton. I grew up there. I lived there after I came, home from college, and I ended up back here in St. Louis. But how is St. Louis? How is Cincinnati holding up during this time of COVID, Corona? What's happening over there?
Yeah. It's a mix of obviously amazing. Everyone's doing pretty well. And then you have those few who like to ruin it for some of us. So we just opened up, bars and restaurants this weekend. And if there were a few bars who were not abiding by the protocols and the rules, so they kind of ruined it not necessarily ruined it for everybody, but they did get a firm warning of hey, if you guys do this, we're going to take away your liquor license. So
yeah,
for me, it's nerve wracking because I'm in the restaurant scene, I'm in the business, and I don't want someone else's lack of responsibility to affect my business.
right.
So hopefully people get their head out of their butts and just listen to the damn rules.
Yeah, just listen to the damn rules. That's all I tell people all the time. Just as long as you do what you're told, you abide by health code, just like anything. I feel like this is something that should have been done even beforehand. Just don't ruin it for other people. But what I love about you is I really enjoyed actually how you've been doing. I read an article on, I think it was Cincinnati Magazine. Am I correct? Mm-hmm. And you're doing Quarantine with Kayla. And I think that is the cutest.
With Kayla. Yeah.
Yep. Tell us a little bit about that. And then we'll get into your background in a second.
Yeah. So once I got laid off, I was laid off March 15th, and I've spent my entire life cooking basically since I was 14 years old. So to all of a sudden be on unemployment and just sitting on my butt, that's not who I am. So I wanted to, turn a sour situation into some positive. And so I started doing quarantine cooking with Kayla, which is where my daughter and I do cooking segments at our house and teach folks at home how to do really simple, delicious meals on a budget. And then I decided to kind of like roll with that concept because we were getting up to 10,000 viewers at a time. So then I was like, well, let's turn this into a business, or at least generate some business out of it, and make it easier for the folks at home. So we started selling meal kits at the restaurant just to help bring in some revenue for the restaurant while we were closed, which definitely helped. People were so generous. They bought gift cards along with the meal kits, and we would sell a lot of booze. Like, people, I think, drank more than they ate during this time.
Yeah.
So, like, we were selling a lot of booze.
Me.
Yeah. So it was really fun. It was something, again, that like I don't really, as a chef, you would think we cook all the time at home. We don't cook at home really at all. So to actually enjoy and use my kitchen appliances here, like these pots and pans had not seen action for a long time until quarantine. And finally, put them to work, and it was great. It was fun to spend some time with my daughter and kind of do what it is I love with her. And she's a natural on camera. She's just a full-blown entertainer. So I think it became the Dre show, like more than it became a cooking show.
I love that she's a part of it, though. Like, so why don't you tell us, because, we are here in St. Louis, why don't you tell, for people who are watching who maybe aren't familiar with your history, how you were just saying you were talking about cooking at the age of 14. How did we get to where we are today, quarantine cooking with Kayla and Dre?
Yeah.
Did not mean to make that
quarantine
rhyme,
cooking with Kayla and Dre. I like that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So let's see. I grew up in North Dakota originally, small town, an hour north of Fargo. Everyone knows Fargo.
Yeah.
See the movie and the show. And everything on it's very true. We all have those funny accents and whatnot. So I grew up there, started working in the restaurant industry right at 14, and wanted to be in the back of house after about 6 months of working as a coffee pourer girl at a buffet. I just basically went around and just poured coffee for 8 hours. Yeah. And then I saw just how much fun the back of house was having. And I had asked my boss, like, how do I get back there? And he's like, well, girls don't work in the back. That's, you're meant to be out here. The boys handle the back. And I kept bugging him for like another 6 months until he finally was like, I'll make a deal with you. You wash dishes and bus tables and prove that you can, handle the workload. I'll put you in the back. So I did that, and eventually got a back of house job with them, and had kind of been in the back of house ever since.
Good for you. Then, I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And let's see, I got pregnant young. I just graduated high school. I was a year out of high school. I graduated high school actually early at 17. And so by 18, I found out I was pregnant, trying to decide what it is I wanted to do with the rest of my life.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And cooking was something I knew how to do. But I knew I wanted to go to college. It's something personally for myself that I wanted to achieve. I wanted to go to college and have a college degree of some sort. And then I found out, Cincinnati has a really great culinary institute here, and I have family here as well. So when when my daughter was a year old, I moved here and started attending Midwest Culinary Institute, and that's kind of where it all just boomed. Working for some great chefs. I was a pastry chef at first, and then switched to the dark side and became an executive chef in 2015 for a local restaurant called Nation Kitchen and Bar, which was or is a great #1 burger joint in the city, actually.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah.
And so I opened as their chef. This was like my first executive chef role at a brand new restaurant. And I was like, 2 months prior to that, I was a bartender, and like just it was like a crazy transition. I mean, I'd worked in
so much going on.
I know. Yeah. I worked in kitchens. I was a pastry chef. I worked as a line cook, and I was a bartender at the same time. I was doing so many things to make ends meet. I'm a single mom.
Yeah.
And then the owners just gave me an opportunity of a lifetime. I was 24 years old and the youngest and only female chef in the downtown area at that time. So I was very fortunate, and had been there for 3 years before I got the opportunity to take on the most iconic bar in Cincinnati and top 10 in the country, Arnold's Bar and Grill,
Yeah.
which is just an amazing establishment in itself. It was the first
Fantastic.
restaurant I went to when I first moved to Cincinnati and fell in love with it. I just
Mhm.
could not believe something that had been here since 1861 still
Right, though?
was standing, functioning, and doing well. And so when the opportunity came that they were looking for a chef to come in and just redo the whole concept of the menu, I just knew like I needed to be there. So
Oh,
I
get
made the jump
out.
in 2018, and from there it's just been, I've just had amazing opportunities. Your sister was with me when I was on the Today Show for Thanksgiving. Yeah,
I heard. Yeah.
that was awesome. Her and I tore up the streets of New York.
I have no doubt. I know my sister.
Yeah, and she's hilarious because, like, I wouldn't say she's a picky eater, but she just hasn't explored food. So just to be with somebody like she is like the person who I love to take out to eat because they will eat something like they're not picky, they'll eat it, but they don't know what they're eating, and they're just that
Yeah.
whole new experience. I think like asparagus was like a pretty common thing that most people have had in their lifetime, and she's like, "What's this?" I'm like, it's asparagus. She's like, "Whoa, that's so good!" Like it's like
I'm sure her mind
like
was
that.
blown. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
I know her.
yeah, it's been great. I've been on Food Network and on the Travel Channel. I've been on the cooking channel. I've had a lot of really awesome national exposure. But nothing's like my little hometown. Cincinnati's my new hometown, right? I've been here for almost 10 years
Yeah.
now. So I love, like, I do weekly segments on the news, and I film things here and there for just local stuff. So, and then quarantine happened and that all came to a halt, and decided to just make the studio in my place.
Exactly. No, I can relate because, doing comedy and going to open mics and being a part of the community, that was always something I was doing. And then COVID happened, and you're just like, well, how can I make the most out of a situation that may or may not be the most positive, or, 'cause especially like you being a chef, you're working with food, you're around people a lot, you're used to that community. So what I've loved that you've done is you're using these Facebook Live videos and including your daughter in it, which is making great memories for her as well. And we'll get into that as well. But I think it's great that you're bringing her into it, which is why I wanted to ask, does she like have any interest maybe in being a chef now that she's seeing her mom do it? Or what's her?
I don't know. So she's grown up in the kitchen since forever. I mean, I've been fortunate to work for people who knew my situation as a single mom, that there were times where the babysitter fell through and she would have to come to work with me. Like, she grew up sitting in the corner on a pickle bucket watching me cook. So she's definitely influenced by it, and she actually can cook herself. I mean, I can trust her to be like, all right, dinner's on you tonight. You can make whatever you want. And she'll actually whip up some pretty good stuff. I mean, it's really basic. She's 10, but like, she does pretty well. Her passion is music, actually. So she just got accepted into SCPA.
Oh, congratulations. That's
thank
so
you.
exciting.
So, which is great because music was something also I have been in my entire life. That's how I paid my way through college. I was in a cover band and called Kayla and the Whiskey Boys, and we would play 3 sets a week and make money, and that's what paid my college bills. So it's cool to like also share, like, that's music, piano, guitar, singing, like those are like her passions as well as they were mine, but just to be able to relate to her in that way is pretty great as well. So it'll be interesting. I don't know who she's going to grow up to be, but I think she's on the right track.
Yeah, I was about to say maybe there'll be a little bit of both. Like, she can be this like fantastic musician, and then all of a sudden
Right.
she's like, maybe I'll just like open up a restaurant, just whip up some food on the side.
Yeah.
Who knows anymore? I mean, the
Yeah.
Wahlburgers, didn't they open up the Wahlburgers in Cincinnati? Is that still there?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so, I don't know how long. I'm surprised they opened up just because, I mean, it sucks for them. They opened up like, and then like a few months later, they have to shut down. So it'll be interesting what places are able to make it out of this. Hopefully more than less. I want everyone to come out on top of this. I don't want to see anybody fail. So hopefully they pull through on it too.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that, because like I feel bad, and I know a lot of podcasters and radio and anybody kind of feels the same way. We talk to a guest and we're like, hey, like, how are you doing? Like, what's happening? And it's same thing here in St. Louis is, my mom will even call me and be like, hi, we're in Cincinnati. Like, we're right near Finneytown area, if you know where that
Yep.
is. And
Know exactly where it's at.
and it's so crazy because I have nothing to update her with. Like, I just like still here, still working,
Yep.
still trying to, make sense of everything. But I love that you're kind of making, again, like I said earlier, this into a positive experience for you. Speaking of positive experiences, though, you have a great reputation of being the commander in beef. So
Yes.
why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how that hashtag made you famous, even on Guy Fieri's grocery games?
Yeah. Yeah. He loved that. They all loved that. So when I first started Nation, it's a burger joint. And so like who I am as a chef is like, I'd love to know everything about everything. So when to tell you what makes the best burger, I want to know all of the things back to the farmers as to how they raise their cattle, to the slaughterhouse and how that process is done, to the butcher, to what cuts they're going to use and how many grinds they're going to put, and to how the method of the burger is made. So that kind of tied into everything beef. I became obsessed with, I would go to the farms, I would just learn everything about them, understand the breeding concept, and just nerding out on all these things, and then breaking down meats and stuff like that. I just think that's even fascinating, and like utilizing every bit of a cow, an animal just in general, or produce, whatever, tickles your fancy. But like, just utilizing everything of a product. So when I was like talking to a friend, and it's no different, like when you're trying to come up with like a band name, right? You're like sitting there and you have like 20 names written down, and then you just kind of get to the point where you're like, I don't even know, I'm just going to pull one out of a hat. And so we were going back and forth of like names for my handle, right? Is that the Instagram handle, Twitter handle, and everything like that. And so Commander in Beef, Commander in Chief, it was just like, okay, that's pretty fitting. And did the whole Rosie the Riveter thing with it and got all cute, but it just fit. It was interesting at first. I think I don't think when people were adding me, they thought I was necessarily a chef. I thought they probably thought I was part of another career. But they learned that it was just meat, like beef, and not anything crazier than that.
Exactly.
It was a little odd at first, but and just kind of stuck with it. And I've had people say, you should probably change your name now to like Chef Kayla Robison, so you're easier to find. But I just love, like, Commander Beef is just different. And especially when I was on Food Network, and they were like, that's what they would call me on set too. Like, my name was never used. It was, yo, Commander Beef, like, come over here. And so like once the episode aired, I was like, well, I could never change my name now. I'm forever Commander in Beef. So
I loved it.
Yeah, that's the name. That's what I am.
I love it. And I would never want you to change it. Like, yes, my Instagram handle is just my first and last name, but I think that Commander in Beef actually is like, since you're known for it, it's more marketable for you when people search you, because they're like, Kayla, she's the commander. And I mean, like, you've been in this industry for a long time. You do have command of it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
What I didn't realize though, so I'm watching the episode on, grocery games, and I didn't realize you had Filipino roots.
I do. They're
Yeah,
hidden.
they're hidden.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
great.
my mom's
Go
side
ahead.
is Filipino.
Okay. I think
And
that's so well-rounded.
yeah, it's the only food she can make. So I grew up only eating like really Filipino food. Or it was funny, like when we had when I had friends over at my house, and my mom would make like pork chops and potatoes and like a normal meal, there'd always be like a side of rice at every meal. And I just thought that was normal. So finally I had a friend be like, why do you always have rice at your meal? And I'm like, you guys don't? Like, you don't have rice and soy sauce with every meal? Like, what's that? But yeah, definitely grew up in a Filipino household. A Filipino influence household. Obviously, like my mom married, like my stepdad is very like small town country meat potato man. So it's a good blended family, but it's great because I love the culture. And it got me to win the second round of Guys Grocery Game. So that was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was super cute though. The first meal that you made, which was like, that was the thing. I was like, dang, I need to get back to Cincinnati ASAP or just order one of your meals because all of them looked like something I would buy. Like and the best part was that first one you made, you were like, oh, it's inspired by one of my favorite fast food restaurants. And I was like,
Taco Bell.
She's talking about Taco Bell. Yep.
The Crunchwrap Supreme. So actually, when I did that burger, I went to Taco Bell and said, like, can you show me how you make your Crunchwrap Supreme? Can you show me how you fold it? Because I wanted to learn how to do it. Yeah. Because it was tricky. Like, I was trying to figure it out when I knew I wanted to do a quesadilla burger. I mean, the menu at Nation kind of covers a lot of different burgers. The quesadilla was the Mexican-inspired burger. So, but yeah, I wanted it to be like a Crunchwrap Supreme. So I went to Taco Bell and asked them to show me their ways, and they did. And then I did my version of it.
Yes. Well, that's what I loved about it, is that you did your own take, and the Crunchwrap Supreme is also my favorite thing over at Taco Bell. Like anytime I go through with my boyfriend, he doesn't even ask me anymore. He just goes, she's going to have the Crunchwrap Supreme. And I'm like, I'm not ashamed. It's fine. No, it's my favorite. It's so I like it. It's so good.
It's like perfectly, there's no mess. It's just a pocket of love and beef.
That's why I am so excited about it. Yeah, you just explained exactly what my heart has felt in Taco Bell. It's a pocket of love. It's great.
Yep.
But my favorite, I also grew up in like not a Filipino, but an Italian influence household. And so the last meal you made that cinched the deal with Guy was the Italian takeout pasta. And it was exactly what I would have got. I feel like it's something that I would just make too. It's very simple. You've got the pasta, I know that there was a mention of, put some mozzarella cheese in it, but I personally liked your choice. I'm not a famous food critic, but it was good enough for me. I'm like, not that my opinion matters as much, but after you cinch the deal.
Does. It's funny. People say that all the time. They're like, well, I'm not a professional, yada, yada, so I don't have, like, my opinion doesn't matter. It's like, well, if you think about it, 90% of my clientele are people who aren't professionals in it. So I want your opinion. You guys are the one I'm selling the food to. Your opinion matters most.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to remember that now. The next time I go to Arnold's when this all is over, I'm going to be like, is Kayla here? Because my opinion really matters. And I need to explain. I'll still and I have a loud voice, again, the loud Italian side. I'm just going to yell it out, be like, this burger is great. Let me tell you what. I'm going to make sure the whole place gets excited. But what I loved at the end of that episode, and I'm sure you feel the same way because it's your daughter, was that her request at the end was that she wanted to talk to Guy. And Guy was like, yeah, call her. And maybe it's quarantine, maybe I'm just an emotional person, but I was like tearing up when I heard her so excited.
Everyone bawled. Everyone bawled. I get like, so the episode re-airs quite a bit, and I will get messages from people on Instagram, like the crying emoji saying, I just saw you won. That's awesome. You got to talk to your daughter. It was great.
Like, I just love that because she experiences all these moments with you in the kitchen. And like you said, she was on a pickle bucket, and now like it's what, and I'm sure you've said this too, and I'm probably reiterating what you already know, but what I love is that, you know, you being a mom and just you being you are setting such an awesome example for her. Because again, like whether she goes like to the School of Creative Performing Arts in Cincinnati, whether she becomes a musician, like she saw her mom going after her passions. And I think that's something that sometimes as we get older, we forget, which is what I told my sister this too. What I admire in you is that you're still doing that. Like you're still carrying out what you love, what you do. And being from somewhere like Cincinnati, like, you know, it means a lot to me too. It's still my hometown. And I just love that you're contributing that vibe and that example to our community. But I also think on a personal note, I think it's great that you're doing that for your daughter as well. So seeing that, like, oh my God, of course. Like you know, and I don't mean to get sentimental over, you know, quarantine here, but it was great to like see that on TV and be like, oh my God, like this is so great. And like Guy was really like, great. Yeah, just call her. And I'm like, okay, you.
Oh man, I was like, first off, the show is like, you're there for 16 hours. So it's like a long day. So by the time he was like, you know, announce that you win, if you're familiar with the show, you're usually supposed to go for a whole other round at the end, like a scavenger hunt thing, where that's where you earn your money. So I remember them like announcing like, oh, you won. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Oh, damn, I got a whole other round. Like I'm exhausted. Right. and then, you know, when he was talking about, you know, what do you think your daughter's going to say? And it was her thing she'd asked like before I left. Because I usually always, anytime I leave town, I'm like, what do you want me to get you? What souvenir? Yada, yada. And she was just like, I want to talk to Guy. And I was like, yeah, it's not going to probably happen, but we'll see what we can do. So when he calls, or when I call, I actually call my Aunt Joey, who you know. I call my Aunt Joey's phone. Everyone knows she never answers her phone. And of course, she didn't answer her phone. She could have been the one to talk to Guy as well. And she didn't answer her phone. So
dang it, Joey.
I called, yeah, I know. I called my daughter. She has like a kid's Apple Watch thing. So I called her on that. And surprisingly, she picked up. And it was such a perfect moment just to like hear her reaction. All the judges were like crying. And the cameramen, who are like grown-ass men, are crying. And like, there's like 30 people on set. There was not a dry eye in house. Like I was a blubbering mess, and it was so rewarding because again, like you said, like I've spent so much of her life just missing out on a lot of things because I was just working all the time and trying to establish a career and always working 3 jobs at one time, always working 80 to 100 hours a week. And then to finally kind of like have her be a part of that moment where it just paid off. It was just, you know, it's a dream come true. Like that was something that was supposed to be my lifetime goal. Like it was supposed to take me entire lifetime to get to that goal. And I got there. And now it's like, well, now what's my new goals? You know, like it's crazy. It's a really surreal moment in the last year of just trying to figure out like all these things I've set for myself. Like when I was on the Today Show, like that was for me a long goal from like, that was supposed to take me till I was in my 40s or 50s to make. And then I was able to do that on Thanksgiving Day, you know?
Right.
It's just, I've checked off all these boxes, and for my daughter to be a part of it. Like she was there on set as well when I was on the Today Show, and Hoda gave her the biggest hug. She was so excited to meet her. And Dre's just like, who are you? I don't know who you are. And I'm like, oh my God, this is one of the most famous women in the entire world right now. And you're just like, don't touch me.
And Dre's like, she's not Guy though. Like that's the thing. Like it's like, especially like for you and I, we'd be like, oh my God, this is Kathy and Hoda, like we all grew up
Mm-hmm.
watching Today Show, but for somebody, because how old is she? 10, right?
She's 10,
So
yeah.
for her,
Yeah,
she's like, she's like, no, are you kidding me?
Yep.
Like my, literally any 10-year-old would be like, who's this lady? But that's just kids. But what I love is that she's like, we can't get a hold of Joey, but this young one's got an Apple Watch. And that's like the craziest thing that I don't like with kids. I'm like, I don't know how to use crap. And they're like, oh, 1 minute. Let me just tap this in here. And
she's a pro. She's a pro. I mean, that's what kids are growing up with now.
That's hard to say. That's what they're doing now. Like they're used to, even when I was a nanny, you know, the iPad, like I didn't even have an iPad. And they're like, all right, we have to have iPad time. And I get 10 minutes and he gets 10 minutes. And I'm like, could you also explain to me how this all works? Thank you.
My daughter had asked, she goes, Mom, when you were my age, did you want to be a YouTube star? I was like, honey, YouTube was not around when I was your age. Like,
no, that was the big thing. Oh my God. I remember when it first came out and Oprah had the creators on, and that's like when it was still like older Oprah, and everybody was like, wow, like what is this going to become? And now like YouTube, everybody's like, whatever. It's like either you're a star on it or
that's their Google now. Like that's just like their go-to on everything.
Exactly. Yeah. Speaking of go-tos, you know, now that you said you've got all these goals, you were on the Today Show, you know, you've been on Grocery Games, you've checked off all these boxes. What do you have planned now in your schedule? Like what is what's your goals now? Getting the cover band back together?
God, no. God. I leave that for karaoke nights.
Yes.
No, I am kind of like, I want to take this time and really just focus on like, again, I've missed so much of my daughter's life, like trying to get us to where we are now. And now we're here and she's 10. She's got 8 more years left with me. You know, I kind of want to spend that time and really just 100% be there. I don't want to miss another soccer game or another play or anything. I miss so much of her, of all the things that she was a part of because I had to work and I couldn't get out of it. And I don't want to miss that anymore. So I'm very fortunate that, you know, Arnold's it's really rare when you find, at least in the restaurant industry, someone who puts family first. You know, normally restaurants are, you cut a finger off, you wrap it up with duct tape and you come to work. Like, which I've actually had somebody do. They literally cut their hand on a saw and showed up to work. And I'm like, no, go to the ER. Like, what? I'm not that person. I would not say stay. I don't want you here around food. No. Go. And so, talk about a good worker. But you know, I'm fortunate that I work for somebody who's very passionate about my passions and about being, you know, there for my daughter as well. So I guess, you know, these next few years, I'm in no rush to open my own because I know how much of that time you give up. Yeah. So I've kind of told myself, you know, when in 5 years, Dre will be 15, and that will probably be the perfect time for me to then open up a restaurant, and then she can work there too. And I'm currently filming a show, but I can't say much. But gonna explore a little bit of the TV route and see, you know, what I can do with that. But it's still like in the hush hush in the way beginning stages. So we're going to see, you know, what that can do, as long as it doesn't like take me away from the normal life I finally have. And so, but yeah, I think just going to coast, you know, I've did the grinding work, and now I just want to relax and enjoy all the, you know, things that I have going for me right now. I just kind of want to enjoy it instead of keep working.
Which are a lot. Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. Well, what I love about you too is like you worked so hard, but you're also giving back to the community, at least from what 100%. I saw. Yes. Like they're like, and I mentioned you were in part of the community, obviously, but there was a local segment I saw on YouTube and it was, it was like, they were like, I think it was like Local 12 maybe, but there was this gal in the front of Arnold's, and she was saying that you were doing a fundraiser for ALS. So I was like, that's really great. How did that go? Was that all successful for you?
Yeah. So my sister-in-law passed of ALS
Oh,
just a
I'm
few
so
months ago.
sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But we found out when I was on set actually for Guys Grocery Games, had found out that she was diagnosed with a very rare
Oh,
form of
wow.
ALS. And
Okay.
so she's young. She's 33. She has two young boys who are
Yeah,
1 and,
that's
and
tough.
4. And so I knew with part of the winnings I gave to her and her family, and then for my show, for like the release party or premiere party, whatever they call it,
Yeah.
we raised a ton of money, so we were able to give them a lot of money, which was great.
Oh, good.
And
Yeah.
we partnered up with Listerman, which is a local brewery here in town, and they made a
Yep.
beer in honor of her. Um,
Yes.
and we were able to. It was great because she was there at my premiere party, which is the same day that we premiered the beer. All of this around her, and she was able to be there for it. And she did pass a month after, so it aired October 9th, and she passed November 6th.
Okay.
But she was there for that. So yes, I'm
Yes.
very much involved in that. And then I do community work. Like if there's anything I could ever do ever in my entire life would to be to run a nonprofit of some sort. I'm very much anytime I do anything, I relate it to a charity of whatever I feel like I'm gonna focus on at that
You and I
moment. So
relate very well on this. Yeah, I feel
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm involved in um, ongoing like 5 charities um, all the time. But I'm constantly
Mm-hmm.
involved with 5 charities right now. So I cook for Ronald McDonald House.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, La Soup is another nonprofit who they're fantastic. They rescue food that's about to go bad from like grocery stores or
Yep.
farmers. They
Mm-hmm.
give it to chefs like myself, and we turn it into meals for homeless people. And let's see, my daughter and I actually, through our cooking show, raised $11,000 for her school last week. And
Okay.
we're able to purchase 150 laptops for the kids at her school who did not have laptops. So they weren't being able to be a part of the online school program during all of this. So
Yeah.
they didn't have the same education as my daughter and all the other kids had. So when I found that out, that was again, like, I like to use, it's rare that, you and we have a platform and
Yeah.
people want to hear our voice of whatever it is we
Yeah.
want to say. And that's so rare. And I teach my daughter that all the time of like, if you do good with that, do change lives, like you can and you should. And so doing our cooking show, we had 10,000 people following, like we were able to raise $11,000 because of that. And
Yeah.
we partnered up with a local nonprofit, Community Happens Here, who also helped raise a big chunk of that money as well. So do good no matter whatever platform you have. It's just the right thing to do.
Absolutely. That's what we just did. I partnered with my boyfriend's podcast, and there was a charity I had worked with last year on my birthday weekend. I did a show with them, and I didn't even know about their charity until my friend was like, "Hey, it's my birthday." And I was like, "Oh, it's my birthday too." And he goes, "Well, we're going to do a birthday show, and it's going to be in honor of this charity." And
That's awesome.
I did yeah, exactly. And that was really fun. And I got to meet the people there. So we just did like a fun little live stream. And then what I had was people would send me their donations in my inbox. And then I had a few Casually Molly like merch mugs here. I don't know if I can
Aw.
get it on the camera, but yeah, they got a little a rainbow on it. There we go.
That's
And
cute. I
so
love that.
yeah. And so anybody that donated, I had a few mugs left. And rather than selling them like I usually would at shows, I put them in gift boxes with toilet paper and like cute little supplies. And I was like, happy
Aw.
quarantine. Here you go. Like we're
That's
casually
awesome.
quarantined together. Yeah. But it's, and I try with my other shows. There was one I produced, and that was when Puerto Rico got hit by the hurricane. And
Yep.
so, yep, I raised half the proceeds went to them. And
That's
then
awesome.
it's a good time. So I can relate to you how you want to give back. It's, if you have the opportunity and the platform to do it, it always like, yes, like obviously it's fulfilling to give back like that. But I mean, it's just, I'm sure you feel the same way. You work so hard to get to a certain point, but you never want to leave behind those humble beginnings. And when people have gone through certain things. Yeah, I'll ask you though, like on just a funny note. So you've worked in the restaurant industry for a while, obviously. Was there anything like, did you ever come through an obstacle, like something like happened in the restaurant industry, something went wrong? Because, you watch all these shows like Master Chef with Gordon Ramsay or, or anything on the Food Network. And it's like, just like on Grocery Games, you're like under the gun, right? And it's just like, I have to do this under a certain time. I have to make sure everything happens. Like, is that normally how it is in the restaurant industry as well? Or is it just, lights, camera, action? Yep.
No, it is constantly on the fly. A lot of things that you were doing, it is on the fly. There's so many times, and I love that. Like, that's where I work really well under pressure.
Me too.
And so I just love like those moments. Like, the best that I can describe is, like a battlefield. And that's probably not a good like analogy, but like, the kitchen, like you're in, you're the dinner service is your battle, right? And you're with you're with your team, and or a game. That's probably a better way to say it. You're with it's a basketball game or football game or whatever, and you're trying to win, and the winning is a great smooth shift. And there's always those obstacles that come your way, and just when you overcome them with your team, like it, and at the end of it, once the 8:45 hits and you've cleared your rail, and you just sit back and you look at your grill cook, your saute cook, your fry, you just look at everybody and you're just like, whew, hell yeah. Like, and there were so many times though of the oh shit moments. Like, for a solid 4 hours, I was like, there was a lot of oh shit moments, but you have to keep your cool. Like, that's the whole thing. And it's funny because like, I'm very calm and collective. I don't crack under pressure. It's taken me a long time to get that way, but like I finally am at that point where I'm not. And just I love that adrenaline rush, and like how my brain starts just getting into that second gear whenever something happens, like, hey, we're 86 this item, and then you think back to like, okay, how do we make something on the fly so we don't have to 86 this item? It's great. And I love like, just that in the moment, they have like those memes where like the kids swinging on a swing set, and there's like a whole building on fire behind them.
Yes,
I know that is like my life like, on the daily. But it is like a very controlled chaos situation, but it's great. I mean, I love it. It's another nonprofit who I partner up with is a rehab facility. So my kitchen crew comes from they're recovering addicts, and they don't have much kitchen experience at all. So it's been really great that I've had the same crew with me since I've been there, so about 2 years, and I taught them everything. They started in the dish tank and I moved them up. I taught them their knife skills. I taught them how to make steak. I taught them how to make burgers. I taught them all these like gourmet plating techniques that like, and like to finally, like right before quarantine happened, I was just sitting back in the kitchen and watching my guys just like run the show and like make those calls that I would have called, or like cut that steak so perfectly, and just to see their growth. And it's just, you sit back and you're like, this is fantastic, like, or there are times where like I've been out of town and I had that crew running, and when they would have that oh shit moment, I got to figure out something on the fly. It's for me to hear about how they executed that, no different than how I would have executed it. It is like the most rewarding thing ever in my career.
Yes,
So
absolutely. Especially when you've worked with somebody for so long to like see like it's just like when you talked about the payoff. And I'm sure they're
mhm.
just like so excited to share, like, hey, look what you taught me. This is what I've been doing. It's great. It's probably the best positive feedback you could
Oh
receive,
yeah. I told them all the time, I was like, I've trained you guys to be great husbands. Now go off and make somebody happy. You clean
Exactly.
really, really well now because I'm so particular on cleaning. And now you're the best cleaner, the best organizer. You put things in alphabetical order and you can cook. Like, I've set you off into the world. Go get married. Like,
It's right. I've done my job. I've mommed
yep,
this shit out. Let's go.
yep. That's basically
but
what my
I,
kitchen is. It's a husband training camp, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of marketable, Kayla. There you go, the Cincinnati training camp. And it's like,
Yep.
do you think you're just going to go in? They're probably like, oh, she's just a girl. So I'm going to cook some meals. And then all of a sudden it's like head chef boot camp. I'm not afraid of
Yep.
anything. So, what is your
I always
favorite
tell them
meal?
my favorite meal
Sorry,
to
go
make.
ahead. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I always, when I get asked this, it's always the same answer. It's something I've never made before. I
Okay.
absolutely love, I love just, that's the whole thing of like, like making something that you've never made is why I fell in love with cooking. It's the process that you learn, the stories behind this dish, all the different characteristics, as well as like the scientific reasonings behind things like Indian food. I just did or not just did, last summer, I partnered up with Jose Salazar, who is a James Beard nominating
Wait,
award chef. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
Salazar
Very
and
good.
OJ. Oh my God. Love
Yes,
that place. Yes.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So he is a good friend of mine and so talented. And so
Mm-hmm.
he called me up and was like, "Hey, I want to cook together. Let's cook something." And I said, "Let's cook something we've never cooked before." And it was Indian food. And just for both of us, like this was a totally different territory for us, but like just Indian food and like why things are done the way they are. Like you can't just dump all your spices. Like you have to build your spices and toast your spices and like there's 16 different spices and like why this one is more than the other and like understanding the layerings of food and like that whole process of it and the fact that it took like hours to make one dish. Like I actually genuinely enjoy that because you're just, I think as Americans, um we get into that, like our culture is like cheap and quick, right? That's why fast food's so thriving here. We work a lot. We are all on budgets. Like we just want something in under 30 minutes for 20 bucks that feeds a family of four. And in the beginning, that's kind of like what my thing was when I was doing a lot of the live news segments was kind of doing those Rachel Ray spinoffs, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
And then just kind of realizing as I've grown as a chef of like, no, we need to remember that food is that thing that brings families and people together no matter what different culture you're a part of. We all have that one thing in common. We all have to eat. We all like that's how you show your love to somebody or that's
Mm-hmm.
how like you gift somebody something. It's by food and labor of love and all those things. So I love like homemade pastas. I just did a gnocchi class and like just teaching
Okay.
folks of like the simplicity of this dish. One, it's a pantry item dish. You have three ingredients. You got gnocchi, and you always have those ingredients. You have potatoes, flour, and egg. You've got that in your
Yeah.
pantry. And
Yes.
then just like that, the kneading of the dough and then you're making the pasta. Like it's just that labor of love. And during that time, if you're Italian, I'm sure if you're making handmade pasta with your family, you're all around the table with grandma and you're
Uh-huh.
probably talking different stories about when grandma was young or whatever gossip aunt
Yeah.
so and so was a part of, who knows. But like
Oh,
that
totally.
that is just, those are creating memories. And that's the long answer as to what I like to
Oh,
cook.
I love it though. I always was curious because when you talk to different people, especially in the in the industry, it's one thing to talk to somebody who probably you always hear like, oh, I like this, but I love to hear. I think that's it's a very interesting answer. I wasn't expecting you to be like, oh, like it's something I haven't made before, because normally like people are like, oh, I like this, I do this. And that I don't know, that's such humility. I really, it's very refreshing to hear something like that.
Oh,
So I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
I
it's
cut
just-
you off earlier. Sorry, go
you're
ahead. I cut you
you're
off again.
exploring. I mean, that's the whole thing about food, is like being adventurous and exploring. You know, I do. I hate the term fusion, but I don't think anyone's came up with a different term for it. But like when you are blending, you know, different cultures into one. You know, I did a Malaysian inspired gnocchi. Like those are two dishes that are really odd and don't really go together, but like it blended very well. So I think my favorite cuisine is Asian for sure. So I dabble in Asian. I have a Jewish background as well, which is very odd, a Filipino Jew. I don't know, but
Get it, girl. Yeah.
I know. And so I did a matzo ball ramen, which is kind of like the highlight at Arnold's when I release that dish every Jewish holiday. So
Nice.
yeah.
So you've got all your bases covered. That's great. You know, I love it. You know, yes, you're the commander in beef, but you've got a lot of commands in different pockets here, which is good.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. Oh, my light went out. I was afraid of putting myself as, well, my light, I don't know what happened. I was afraid of putting myself as commander in beef for a little bit, because I was afraid it was going to kind of limit me or put me in a box, and I didn't. Hello, light. Just putting you guys. We're on a rave.
Actually,
right
I kind
now.
of love
I don't know
it.
if you knew this. There it is.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's a good sense of humor to have.
But like, yeah, I mean, like Commander Beef, I was afraid it was going to put me in that box of just beef. But you know, and even with the new show that I'm filming right now, yes, we're definitely playing along with my name and my tagline, Commander and Beef. But it's like I have to find ways to just, you know, explore my, you know, like what I can do as well. But primarily, I love beef. I love to break down beef. I love to cook beef. So that's kind of why I'm sticking with Commander and Beef. But I mean, Commander and Carrots doesn't sound good, or Commander, you know what I mean? Like Commander and Chicken, like, I don't know, Commander and Beef.
Just something about beef. It's just like the lion of the meat industry there. I like it. But you were saying earlier, you know, in your husband training, there was something that you said you always tell them, and I cut you off, and now I want to know.
Oh, I always tell my staff that I train them to take my job.
Nice.
I train my staff. Like I always say, like, and I've told, I had a kid who worked for me when he started working for me at 17, and this was at Nation. He worked for me for 2 years. And I literally was like, he wanted to stay and become my sous chef one day and all these things. And I'm like, you are going places. So I either fire you or you go find another job, because I can't have you stay here, because you're just going to you don't want to be the sous chef. I'm not saying this, the restaurant's fantastic, right. But like I always tell him, I said, I'm going to be working for you one day. And I'm still good friends with him. I still talk to him. I keep up with him. He is the sous chef at Fausto's, which is downtown, working for Tony Fiari, who is a fantastic chef and restaurateur in the city. And I was so happy to connect those two together, because that kid is doing it. He's not even a kid anymore. He's 23 years old. He's a man. But to me, he's like my little brother. But, you know, I just want to give anyone and everyone everything I know and all the tools I have, which there are plenty of people who have way more. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly like asking Jose and other chef friends, like, what do you think about this? Have you ever done this? I've never done this. Can you teach me this? Like, you have to grow, you have to learn. But yeah, when I train my staff, I always say I train them to take my job. You know, on a Friday, Saturday night, I'm in the dish pit with my dish boss. You know, he's grinding, and then I've taught him how to make burgers and steaks and stuff like that. So
yeah, cool. Yeah. I think that's a great philosophy too, because, you know, there's a lot of times where I talk to people and they're like getting trained for certain jobs, and it's just, you know, some people maybe don't have the same approach that you do, and they're really confused on how to carry things out. But what I love is that you're leaving your not I guess employees or people your team, in good hands where they feel confident enough to like follow their passions just like you're doing, and they feel like they're gonna be comfortable in the kitchen, which is great. But now you're in your own kitchen, as we can see right behind you, which is kind of fitting for I love it. It's actually really pretty. You'll have to come
see
design
my little
mine.
trophies, like pull up.
Yes,
my little wine trophy shelf.
Oh, don't worry. I've got the whiskey over in mine. You
Nice.
can't see it, but Allie will tell you.
Wait, mine's back there.
There you go. You're like, as we point, I'm like, it's like I point through my wall to my kitchen. But what I'll tell you.
There's my child.
Is that? Oh, does she want to come over and say hi?
Say hi.
She's like, is it Guy Fieri?
Say hi to Molly.
Hi. I just saw that you were a Facebook Live star, so I just wanted to say hello to somebody that's famous on these live streams. I wanted to ask you, Dre, what's been your favorite part of quarantine with your mom?
Nothing.
Oh, whatever.
I really liked drawing music hall.
Oh yeah, we went for art class because now I'm a homeschool teacher. For art
this
class,
is good for moms to see. Here we go.
Yeah. We went to Washington Park and sketched music hall.
And the picnic.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a picnic in the park.
Say.
She did pretty good.
That's one of my favorite spots. There's the gazebo over there and everything. It's a good place to sketch. So it's one of my favorite spots in Cincinnati.
Mom framed my picture.
Yep.
Oh.
Bye.
She's like, I'm done.
She's getting snacks. Ice cream.
Right. I like it. I mean, I'm probably going to do the same after this is done, being honest. So.
A goofball. Actually, she's doing good. She went for grapes.
Oh, there you go.
Impressive.
So she's doing better than me. She's got the Apple Watch. She's going for grapes. I mean, come on. She talked to Guy. I mean, this is a 10-year-old's dream here. Let me tell you what.
Yeah, she's doing good.
What I'll ask you before we end all of this out here, I love your story. I love your passion for anything everything you do. You have a lot of hats, which is great. You're doing like filming. You're still, you have the cover band from your past. You've got your chef gear going on here. What I'll ask you is for anybody who's maybe interested in the chef industry or the food industry, excuse me, what advice would you maybe give to them? Maybe they're starting out, they're kind of unsure of like what steps to take. What would you recommend as a head chef here, commander in beef?
Yeah. I always, it's a good question. I would say start from the bottom and work your way up. Don't skip steps.
Bye.
Bye, Dre.
Embrace if your first job in the kitchen is, a prep cook. That's between the prep cook and the dishwasher, those are the two most important jobs in the kitchen. They're the backbone of your kitchen. So never think you're above. Just study and learn and always ask questions and embrace those stepping stones that get you to where you want to ultimately be. Because, I skipped that sous chef spot in my career, and I really wish I would have had that opportunity. I'm so grateful that, I was able to have an executive chef job at 24, but, I was always in that position to have to prove to people that I was worthy of the job, which you should always do no matter what. But yes. I couldn't give them a resume and say, oh yeah, I was a sous chef here, so I'm qualified for this experience. I've had this much management. I didn't have that on paper. Right. I wasn't good. It was who I am. I had to sell myself, which made it that much harder. But to embrace those stepping stones to get you to that goal, no matter what your career is, but especially in the kitchen. I mean, Anthony Bourdain, he was a dishwasher, you know, and a lot of us chefs who, I think there's a weird gap right now with chefs just because the industry's changed so much. So I come from the era of chefs where it was the Gordon Ramsays, where you had those assholes who threw stuff at you and you ducked. And like I went through that. And I knew that's not who I wanted to be as a chef. I don't raise my voice really at all. And I don't have to, you know, I tell my staff all the time, I'm your coworker until I have to be your boss, and please don't make me be your boss. Like, just do your job. I want to have fun too. So, you know, just to embrace all those stepping stones, and get in the dish pit and get your hands dirty and help and just, you know, be humble. I think that's just the biggest thing. And you have to be a really hard worker, but it's also important that this is an industry that will it demands so much of you, physically and mentally, and that it's important that you don't forget about yourself along the way. And so, you know, for a while I did that, and I missed out on a lot of years of my daughters growing up because I put work first. Now, granted, single mom, I had to make ends meet so that I could be at this spot now. But now I'm in that position where, like, I will never work another Mother's Day because I don't want to. I want to be there with my kid for Mother's Day, where Mother's Day is the number one busiest day in restaurants is Mother's Day.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I told, you know, I will never miss another Mother's Day. I'm putting myself and my kid first. And that's
you deserve
pretty
it,
easy
girl.
to, you forget about that when you're in this type of field because you are so used to giving. And that's what you are. You are giving to others the whole time. That's what hospitality is making someone else's night, you know, and being a special part of that experience. But you have to remember you've got, you know, yourself to take care of too. So there's a lot of like a lot of things I just said in that one little thing.
A lot of layers. Well, I understand because I work in the hospitality industry. I actually am a front desk supervisor at a hotel. So that is my day job. So, and we're connected to a restaurant. So every time like these poor servers, they're just like they're like, hi, can you put this order to their bill? Thank you. And Mother's Day, you're correct. We have the brunch sign. And everybody's like, where are we going? I'm like, down the hall and to your right. And it is so crowded. I mean, I'm so happy, obviously, that it's so crowded. But it's, you know, what you have to remember in the hospitality industry, it's very fast paced. You have to like, I'm kind of the same as you because there was a girl I worked with once and she's like, you're my supervisor. You don't really feel like one. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Because I'm like, I like to be social. I like to be your friend. But I'm like, please also don't let me like get upset with you. Yeah. And just tell upper management that you're a pain in the behind. So like, I don't want to do that. But I really appreciate you taking the time to sit with me. And I can't wait until I can't wait till we can personally hang out, you know, after I love this Zoom, you know, the Zoom call here. It's great. But I can't wait to like actually come and
face to face.
Exactly. We can like talk more about theater and all the fun filming and all the stuff like that too. But what I'll ask you, we talked about handles and things like that. Is there anything that you need to, or you would like to per se, I don't think you need to, but promote, or is there anywhere we can find you on social media that you want us to follow?
Yeah. I mean, there's two things I like. You know, my Instagram is at Commander in Beef. And it's the letter N, not I-N. Somebody already took I-N. I need to find that person and pay him, I guess, for me to have the I-N. So Commander, get my royalty rights. N Beef on Instagram. And then my restaurant, Arnold, Cincinnati. You know, Arnold's has got it's just itself is like an amazing establishment. And I'm tying my show, you know, I want to tie Arnold's into that as well. So if you follow those two, you know, you'll have access to, you know, I post my recipes on there and all the cool things that we're doing at the restaurant and whatever crazy stuff I got going on in my life, I like to put on there too. So,
100%.
But yeah, I mean, right now, you know, we're in this weird, support obviously your local restaurants and all the small businesses and, continue doing that. So no matter where you're at. Yeah.
Exactly. I agree. Well, I can't wait to get back again to Cincinnati soon. For those of you who are following this, please remember to casually subscribe to the Casually Molly podcast. You can find us on YouTube now, also on Facebook, Instagram. Follow, subscribe, do what you need to do. And then on audio, you can find us on all streaming services. But Kayla, what are you going to casually do now that our interview is complete?
What time is it? 8:45.
So
I'm gonna eat dinner.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good plan. I like that plan. Me too, man. I felt bad about the Cincinnati. I was like, oh, it'll be at 6:30. And I was like, I told Allie what happened, and she goes, oh, that was the story of my life when I came to visit you. So don't worry about it. But Kayla, this was wonderful. I wish you the best. And again, I can't wait to meet you and, hopefully get back to this new normal, as we call it. And tell Trey, thank you for being a part of the interview as well.
Yeah. That's the thing right now. They're all online chatting with their friends. That's like her social life now. I can't peel her off that computer.
Exactly. I know that's about right. Well, thank you very much. And
yes, thank you.
Have a good one.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
Bye.